At a busy airport checkpoint, a security officer cracks a woman's memorial necklace and spills her father's ashes on the conveyor belt. A nearby coffee kiosk manager breaks rules to protect her dignity and gather the remains, risking his badge and a day's pay. The act leads to quiet changes at the checkpoint and a grounded moment of connection without fanfare. Just a quick note before we begin: hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. The ceramic necklace cracked in the security officer's palm. Grey dust fanned across the black belt. The belt hummed. Fluorescent lights bleached everything. The woman in the oversized blazer reached for him. He brushed her hand away without looking at her face. "Powder," he said like he was spitting out a seed. "You can't bring this through." "That's my dad," she said. Her voice snagged in her throat. People behind her froze, then leaned, then raised phones. A kid coughed at the smell of rubber and cold air. Marco looked up from rinsing milk pitchers. He had the kiosk lights half on and a rack of muffins out. The checkpoint was 10 steps from his counter. He had seen handbags opened, belts stripped, tears. He had never seen grey ash spill like that. He glanced at the laminated note taped under his register. Vendors must not interfere with screening. Last month his boss had made him initial it. Fines. Badges pulled. The kiosk paid rent by the week. One day closed was a hole he couldn't fill. The officer pinched another piece of the pendant to test. It crumbled. More ash went down into the seam where the belt disappeared. "Stop," the woman said. "Palm up. Please. That's all I have." People shifted, impatient. A man in a suit said, "We gotta make our flights," to nobody. Someone else muttered, "Rules are rules." Marco wiped his hands on his apron. He felt the warm pitchers in his grip. He set them on the counter, his stomach folded in a tight knot that had nothing to do with coffee. He grabbed a stack of coffee filters and a clean espresso cup with a lid. He snagged a wooden stir stick from the holder. He didn't think about the sign or the boss or the rent. He thought about the grey dust crawling toward the belt mouth like it was about to be swallowed. He slipped past the stanchion and set the filter under the lip of the belt. "Can you stop it?" he said, voice even. His hands moved like he was catching a spill. The woman looked at him with wide, wet eyes. "Please," she whispered. Her fingers shook. "Step back," the officer said. He leaned in, his mouth hard. He smelled like cheap coffee and mint. "You can't be here." "Write me up," Marco said, not loud. He angled the filter and used his hand as a wall so the AC didn't scatter the dust. He didn't touch the officer. He didn't touch the woman. He just moved in the space between them. "I need the belt stopped." He raised his eyes to the officer. "It's cremains. You can swab without breaking it." The officer's jaw twitched. He wasn't a monster. He looked tired, with purple smudges under his eyes. He glanced at the line backing up and the light blinking on lane 3. He shook his head once. "I can't stop the whole lane for this." "Then block the gap." Marco slid the espresso cup under the crumble zone. He put the filter as a funnel. The belt hummed a little louder, like it resented the attention. A supervisor in a white shirt came fast, radio chattering. "What's going on?" he said. Eyes snapping from the officer to the man in the apron at the belt. Vendor interfering, the officer said, "Powder item?" "It's my father," the woman said. She kept her voice level now, as if level would help. She pressed her lips to her teeth like she was holding them in place. Marco kept his body small. He did not argue policy. He slid the filter around the ash and tipped. The dust whispered into the cup. His fingers shook. He was aware of every eye on him and the camera lenses and the clock he couldn't see. "Move back now," the supervisor said. He put a hand out like a yield sign. "Sir, go back to your business. You can't be here." "In a second," Marco said. He used a wooden stir stick as a tiny broom. He nudged the last of the ash into the funnel. He snapped the lid on. The cup looked like any small coffee, light and weirdly heavy at the same time. "You're done," the supervisor said. He held out his hand. "Badge." Marco swallowed. He could have argued. He didn't. He handed over his laminated vendor badge. The lanyard went slack against his neck. An airport police officer clipped his badge off his lanyard. "You'll need to step to the side," the cop said, not mean. "Your stand will be closed today." Marco nodded. His throat burned, but not from coffee steam. He offered the woman the little cup. "Let's wash your hands," he said, because that was the next right thing. At the checkpoint sink, he ran the water warm. He pumped soap into her palms. Grace swirled down the drain in thin lines. He handed her paper towels, one by one. He gave her his clean spare apron from the hook to use as a barrier when she slid her backpack back on. He peeled a blank sticker from a stack they used for pastry names. He pressed it on the cup lid so it wouldn't pop open in her bag. He did not write anything on it. The officer who had cracked the pendant stood there, chest rising and falling, watching. He didn't say sorry. He did stop the next bin with his hand and wave another screener to cover the lane while they swabbed the cup. "It's clear," the second screener said after a swab. He gave a small nod to the woman, not looking at her eyes. "You can go." The woman held the cup with two hands, close. She looked like someone who had learned to carry fragile things through crowds. "Thank you," she said to Marco, like she wasn't used to saying it out loud. From her backpack, she pulled a thin program with a blurry photo and a date. A bus receipt with yesterday's date stuck to it, a letter with a landlord's name peeked out, a red stamp on the corner. She didn't show them. They just fell open when she looked for a tissue. He hated flying, she said. She tried to smile and failed. He wanted the river. "Make your gate," Marco said softly. He didn't reach for the papers. He tucked the strays back into the bag with her nod. The supervisor held the form for Marco to sign. Vendor interference with screening operations, he read, bland like a menu item. Temporary suspension of area access. Marco signed. His pen scratched. His hand was steady now. In the hours after, the kiosk sat dark. A clothes sign hung crooked. Customers walked up, read it, turned away. A guy in a business jacket pointed at it and at Marco through the glass, like Marco could change it by wanting. He sat in the small office behind the trash hallway, while a woman from concessions read him the policy again. She was polite. She kept glancing at the clock. "It's a day," she said. "Maybe two. We'll see what TSA says." He nodded. He texted his co-worker to go home. He counted how many bills he wouldn't earn, and where those bills would have gone. He didn't feel regret. He felt tired in a clean way. When they let him back out to get his stuff, the checkpoint was quieter. The officer was at a different table, palms on plastic edges, explaining something to a man with a baby bottle. He lowered his voice. He gestured to a mat. He swabbed the bottle with care. 2 weeks later, small things had shifted. A new sign went up on a plexiglass stand by the bins. "Cremated remains. Ask for assistance." The font was small. It was there. At the end of the conveyor, a clear bin appeared with microfiber cloths and a few empty screw-top sample jars that looked like they used to hold beads. A clerk from the newsstand said someone donated them. The jars weren't official. Nobody made a big deal. They were there. The officer who had cracked the pendant started wearing gloves for fragile items even when he wasn't required to. He said, "May I?" before opening anything that looked personal. He looked at faces before he looked at bags. He didn't soften into a different person. He just shifted 2 degrees. Marco got his badge back after 3 days. The concessions woman handed it over like a library card. "Don't make me regret it," she said, but without bite. He opened the kiosk early the next morning. He put a small stack of new coffee filters near the edge. He added a few extra paper cups with tight lids to the side of the machine. He didn't put a sign on them. He taped a small printed card under the counter next to his boss's rules. It was a copy of a TSA line about cremains, screening permitted, no requirement to open. He didn't highlight it. He just wanted to know the words. On a Tuesday, a man with shaky hands came through with a small wooden box. The officer nodded to him and waved another screener over. They stopped the belt for a breath. The crowd behind them didn't groan. A kid pressed her face to her mother's coat and watched quietly. A week later, the woman with the blazer came back through Marco's line. He noticed the same backpack, the same careful way she moved. She had the same small cup, now taped and tucked deep. She didn't see him at first. When she did, she lifted her hand in a small wave. He nodded back and slid a bottle of water across the counter toward her. Nothing said. She took it and went on. He stood behind the counter as the belt hummed steady. He watched the light slide across the tile, bright at the stanchion, dull farther in. The morning smell was hot milk and rubber and something like rain from the automatic doors. On the shelf, a plain paper cup with a tight lid sat next to the espresso machine, clean and ready. He rested his fingers on the counter, not moving them. He didn't plan anything. He breathed.